This is First Light. I'm Evan Haining, and it's your turn this Monday, August 17th. Well, Sunday marked the 38th anniversary of the death of Elvis Presley. For some reason, we marked the day Elvis died, August 16th, rather than the day he was born, January 8th. But we do remember him, and this morning's question is why? What does Elvis Presley have to do with you, or have to do with anything? Call me at 800-736-3666. I was driving on the Hollywood freeway when disc jockey Gary Owens announced Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, is dead. We'll have details in 5 minutes, and then he played Return to Cinder. Well, some people say Elvis is an insult to American culture. Others say he is American culture. What do you say? Give me a call, 800-736-3666.
Return to sender. Return to sender. I gave a letter to the postman.
36 minutes past the hour this Monday, August 17th on First Light. Well, Elvis Presley died 38 years ago. Yesterday, we're still talking about him, still listening to him. And today, we want you to tell us why. 800-736-3666. You know, after Elvis died, his record sales rose, and some people made jokes that dying had been a good career move. By the way, Forbes lists Elvis at number 2, $55 million in earnings last year. The only dead celebrity who made more was Michael Jackson. But Elvis beats Jacko for home visits. The most visited residence in America is the White House. Graceland is second. It beats Jefferson's Monticello, Mount Vernon, and Michael Jackson's Neverland, which is in fourth place. Does Elvis deserve all this attention? What does all this mean? Give us a call, 800-736-3666. And the post office released the Elvis Presley Forever stamp last week. It's the second set of commemoratives for him. No other private citizen has been on 2 sets of stamps, only presidents and probably Ben Franklin, Alexander Hamilton. Well, Elvis excites people, but he had problems. Prescription drugs, for one. He didn't drink, he didn't smoke, but he took pills by the handful, even challenging friends and bodyguards to contests to see who could swallow the most pills without drinking any water. And although he was a very nice guy, he was spoiled. His bodyguards made sure the first chamber of his sidearm was always empty because a time or two he pulled the trigger when he got mad. What do you think about Elvis? Call 800-736-3666. Here is an interview that Elvis Presley gave to NBC's Monitor program back in 1956. He was 21, somewhat different from his last years.
We have beside us the one and only Elvis Presley. It's good to have you on NBC's Monitor, Elvis.
Thank you, Happy. It's a pleasure being here, sir.
Might tell you right now that 8,000 fans are anxiously awaiting for your performance here. But let's ask you a few questions for our NBC listening audience. How do you like this traveling?
Well, sir, I like it a lot. In fact, I don't like to stay in one place very long.
What about your future plans, Elvis?
You mean as far as the music business? Or
yes.
Well, everything's happened so fast, I ain't had time to make many plans, but I just hope to continue making records and everything. I hope I can get some good material, so...
Well, do you think maybe the movies will occupy most of your time if you make...
No, sir, they won't occupy most of my time. I don't know.
You like traveling around the country?
In other words, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, you know.
Well, do you like playing nightclubs, Elvis?
No, sir.
You don't?
I do not.
Well, how did you ever start those long sideburns? You're starting a fad now.
Well, I've had them for 28 years.
28 years?
28 long years.
And you don't mind wearing them, huh?
No, and also, I've had them ever since I was old enough to grow them.
What's your favorite song, Elvis?
Out of mine or
out of any song?
Don't Be Cruel is my favorite of mine now. Of other records, I like My Prayer, probably.
And what is your biggest thrill that you've had so far?
Well, I've had quite a few of them. I've had quite a few.
Heartbreak Hotel, the first one?
Well, that was my biggest hit. That wasn't my biggest thrill, I don't guess. Of course, I hadn't seen the royalty check from it yet.
Well, it's nice to have you on Monitor, Elvis Presley, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Happy, very much.
Now back to Radio Central in New York.
That's Elvis Presley at the age of 21. Elvis died 38 years ago yesterday, and we want to hear from you. Our number is 800-736-3666. What do you think about Elvis Presley? Have any relation to your life? He was charming. He was self-destructive. He was creative. He was 100% American. Paul McCartney once said the Beatles didn't get as self-destructive as Elvis because there were 4 of them. They could look at each other and say, oh, come on, cut it out. Come on, you know who you are. But Elvis was one of a kind. He was powerful. He could get whatever he wanted. Once he saw some earth movers at a construction site, and he jumped in one and started tearing down partially built homes. So when the construction guys ran up and told him to stop, he just reached in his pocket, threw some money in their direction. Red and Sonny West, along with Dave Hebler, wrote a book called Elvis, What Happened? They have some really harrowing and gruesome stories about what happened behind the scenes at Graceland and on the road. And they wrote the book to warn him about the direction he was going, but he died before they could publish it. So we want to hear your thoughts on Elvis Presley. Does he have anything to do with you? What can we learn from Elvis's life and from his death? The number to call is 800-736-3666. Elvis has now been dead as long as he lived. 800-736-3666. There have been some other icons, Rudolph Valentino, Marilyn Monroe. People continue to talk about them. What does Elvis Presley have in common with Marilyn Monroe? She's another person who we remember because of her death. So give us a call at 800-736-3666. That's 736-3666. It is 41 past, and we'll be back after these messages.
Sitting home all alone. If you can't come around, at least please telephone. Well, that's all right, Mama. That's all right with you. That's all right, Mama. Just any way you do it, that's all right.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, that's a song that changed the world. It certainly changed the musical world in the United States and everywhere. John Lennon, the Beatles, said there was nobody before there was Elvis. And we want your thoughts on Elvis Presley today. And our number is 800-736-3666. Call 800-736-3666 about this self-destructive, creative American who is remembered now, and he has been dead as long as he has lived. Over the last week, they call it Elvis Week every year. A lot of items were sold, a lot of just, kind of pocket litter. The honeymoon hotel receipt from his honeymoon with Priscilla Presley. Priscilla Presley was asked on the Today Show in 2012, was asked about how many people would visit Graceland if she had ever imagined as many people would visit as have done so.
No, never. I mean, when we opened it in '82, we had no idea that we'd have maybe some visitors, but not to this extent. I mean, I was told that Elvis passed and that, he'll be forgotten in the next couple of years and life goes on. Thank God I didn't listen to any of those people.
Lisa Marie, what feelings do you get when you come here?
I'm always really happy when I'm here. It always reminds me of when I was the happiest, I think, in my life. So, and it always just brings me right there when I come back.
And Priscilla, in an interview, I believe you said when you were talking about Graceland coming here that you feel like Elvis is going to come down the stairs any minute. So do you feel his presence here throughout still?
Absolutely. I've always said that. You feel that this is so much a part of him, this home. He loved this home. He always came back here, no matter what. His presence is just all around, going into each room. He's sitting here, sitting and talking or playing the piano. Early morning hours, the kitchen, that's where we all congregated. Lots of laughs. I can sometimes hear laughter.
What did you call your father, Lisa Marie?
Daddy.
His daddy. Mm-hmm. Never Elvis.
I did say it a few times, and he wasn't too thrilled when I would call him that because I kept hearing it being yelled, by women, and I would giggle and start saying it back to him. Or I'd call him like the fans would call him when I was really little, and he would giggle. But he preferred that I call him Daddy, I suppose.
Oh, baby, 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 baby.
I loved being with him before he'd go on stage, and then being in the audience while he was being just as awestruck watching him as anybody in the audience.
So your own father watching him, you're awestruck.
Of course, because there was really no difference in him off and on stage. There wasn't a persona that was different. He was, the word would be awesome, just his dynamic, how big he was, and how what he projected was just as much off the stage as it was on, so there wasn't any difference.
Good evening. Elvis Presley died today. He was 42.
Tell me about that day 35 years ago. Priscilla, do you remember getting the call?
I do. I'll never forget that day. I walked outside and I said, my God, something's not right. And Lisa was in Memphis at the time, and I first thought about her. I wasn't able to function for a while without him because I just, in my head, I just thought, what do I do without him? Because he was always there for me.
And that is Priscilla Presley from a 2012 interview along with her daughter and Elvis's daughter, Lisa Marie. And we're taking your calls about Elvis Presley this morning, 800-736-3666, 736-3666. Let's check with Andrew in St. Louis. Good morning, Andrew.
Yes, good morning. I just happen to be at the right place at the right time, and I'm about ready to tell you something that is 100% accurate. Whatever you've heard from other people, just don't believe everything you hear, but this is accurate. Now, here's the situation. Here's what happened. See, I'm not a singer, but I'm a recording writer, and I've had songs published. And I was in Earth City years ago. It was the first 32-track studio in the central United States, from here to Chicago, especially in the St. Louis area. So I'm waiting in the outer waiting room, ready to use the studio to have one of my friends record something, a demo tape they call it. And in the outer waiting room is a guy, and he's got his guitar, and you're just looking at each other, and we're waiting 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And I said, did you know Elvis? He says, I sure did. And this is the absolute truth. He was his lead guitar player. I forgot the guy's name. This is years ago, And he said he was on all his recording sessions and all his trips going around the world, and tears were coming down his eyes. I said, what exactly happened? Where did he die, and how did he die? Now, you've heard a lot of stories where he died and how he died, and this is the absolute truth, because he was in Memphis. He was in Memphis, and they were practicing, the night before he was to make his comeback, and they rented a suite out in Memphis, the band, and he said he had to go to the bathroom, and I heard reports that it was in Graceland that this happened, but it wasn't. It was in a motel they rented. They had a suite, and so what happened was that he went in the bathroom and he didn't come out for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour. So they got kind of nervous, the guys in the band, and they pounded on the door. It was locked to the bathroom. So they didn't hear any response, and they broke through the door. He was on the floor, dead from an overdose. And the reason was he knew he wouldn't be able to make the comeback. He was about 350 pounds, a diabetic, out of synchronization singing, out of tune. And they would have laughed him off the stage, and he didn't want that to happen, so he killed himself the night before. That's exactly what this guy, he was a lead guitar player, personal friend, all his life.
So that's really interesting. He claimed that Elvis took his own life because he didn't think he could make a comeback.
That's right. That is the truth, and that was told to me by his lead guitar player, and I forgot the guy's name, years ago. And all the stories you heard. Did you know he was a diabetic, and he used to eat a gallon of ice cream a day, maybe 2 gallons a day, and he was 350 pounds. You know he was a diabetic. He had extreme high blood pressure.
Well, the thing is that the people say, well, when you can do anything you want to do, you're going to self-destruct. But, of course, I think we would all kind of like the chance to see if that's true or not,
Did you know he was 350 pounds diabetic and out of synchronization, out of tune, and he wouldn't have been able to make the comeback?
Well, I
laughed him off the stage.
Yeah, I knew he was overweight and that he was having all those problems, and of course, prescription drugs the whole time. And then in Las Vegas, he had to have a plexiglass floor, and people would hold up the lyrics under the stage, the lyrics of his songs, because he had forgotten them.
That's right. Then they had that other concept in the ear. They could dictate one line at a time before they would sing. Sinatra had that. They all had it. As their memory faded and they got older, Dean Martin had that. They put a certain device in their ear, and by remote control, they give them one line at a time before they sing it.
I remember 30 years ago people making fun of Tony Bennett, who got a lifetime contract with Caesar's Palace for getting. I left my heart in.
I met him personally,
and forgetting the lyrics too. I'm
a published songwriter.
Well, here he's 90 years old now, or close to it. He hasn't forgotten anything. So some of us come
one
through.
last thing, and I'm done.
Sure,
I appreciate your time, but I figure all the different reports from different people. I dated Marilyn Monroe 15 times. She was murdered. She didn't commit suicide. And if you followed anything, reports on her, the medical report said that all the drugs and all the overdose, the empty bottles on the floor when she was found dead, none of those were in her stomach. So she was murdered, and that was a story in itself, which is for another time. And I was a very good friend of hers, and this was told to me by one of the few people that know exactly what happened. And they told me, this guy told me because I was so close a friend to her. So she did not commit suicide. None of the drug bottles on the floor were contained in her stomach on the autopsy, see?
Well, that's really interesting stuff. All right,
And then that's the thing. Marilyn Monroe is a narcissistic person.
Sure, people who are in
that love themselves don't kill themselves. She loved the spotlight and the attention.
All right. Hey, thanks, Andrew. And Buddy in Arcadia. Elvis have anything to do with you?
How you mean? About Elvis?
Yeah, what do you think of Elvis Presley?
Well, I really liked him. I really cried the night he died, believe it or not. I couldn't even swallow my supper. I didn't know he had ever been sick, for one thing. It was a shock to boot. I don't like everything I hear about him, but I just like to believe the best thing that I know about him. I know he, to me anyways, his movies were always fit to take a decent girl to if you had one.
Yeah, I remember hearing that the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather, he said, make this the lead story. And everybody said, what? You're nuts. And he said, this is the lead story tonight. And thank you, Buddy. And thanks for your calls on Elvis Presley. And it's 5 minutes before the hour. This is First Lights. We'll be back after these messages.
Well, my hand is shaking and my knees are weak. I can't seem